Well, my point is that the premise that's, I think, assumed in this line of questioning that information is better when the person is not Mirandized as opposed to when they are Mirandized is not proven and is contradicted in a whole lot of testimony, including yours here today. We just had 3 bells. That means we have a vote in, we have 15 minutes to a vote. It will probably last longer than that. We're going to divide up the remaining time between myself and the other members who are here roughly equally. So it will be kind of a rapid fire here, Mr. Attorney General, and then after that, then we're going to adjourn the hearing. I want to get on the record clearly that there have been a significant number of terrorist cases tried in Article III courts during different administrations, Democrat, Republican, Democrat administrations. Is that correct, sir? And can you give us a little detail on that?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. There were terrorism cases that were tried in Article III courts in the Bush administration. I don't have the exact number here, but I'm pretty sure it's close to about 150 or so. You know, Ramzi Youssef, the original World Trade Center bomber, was tried in Article III court. The Blind Sheikh. You know, there are a number of high-profile terrorism cases that were tried successfully in
Article III courts, in the Clinton administration, in the Bush administration, and now in President Obama's administration.
Right, that's correct. And
terrorist suspects tried in Article III courts, convicted?
Convicted, yes.
And serving time in?
Federal prisons. Federal prisons
in the United States. Thank you. White-collar crime, Mr. Secretary, quickly. There is a lot of interest in the extent to which criminal fraudulent conduct may or may not have been involved in the financial crisis that the country has just experienced and coming through and trying to fashion regulations to prevent. Can you speak to your department's addressing that question, and what is the status of it, of your investigations?
We have put together a financial fraud enforcement task force that marries a group of federal executive branch agencies with our state and local counterparts, chiefly attorneys general in various.
Is that the financial fraud enforcement task force?
Exactly, with state attorneys general to look at a whole variety of financial fraud, everything from mortgage fraud to securities fraud. A case just brought yesterday in the Southern District of New York involving a bank in one of the first TARP cases, TARP criminal cases, was brought by the Financial Fraud Enforcement Task Force. So that is something that is very broad in scope to look at the entirety of financial fraud activity that may have contributed to the economic downfall that we saw, but to the extent that these crimes exist, we are determined to find the people responsible and to hold them accountable.
The task force includes the Treasury Department, HUD, SEC, and various inspector generals. It looks like a broad base. Does your budget request anticipate greater activity with regard to that task force going into 2011?
Yes. We have increases with regard to corporate fraud DOJ-wide of an 11% increase, and with regard to corporate mortgage and other financial fraud DOJ-wide, an increased request of 23%.
Implementation of the Adam Walsh Act, Mr. Attorney General. The Adam Walsh Act was passed in 2006, as you know, but we're still struggling to fully implement it due to a lack of funding. Has the Department quantified what it would cost you to fully fund and implement the Adam Walsh Act? If you have not, could you submit that for the record?
Sure. Rather than try to, let me submit something for the record, just so that I can be more precise in my answer.
I was, just to get a little support on the record from the executive for Adam Walsh, I was heartened to hear that President Obama recently committed to John Walsh that he would get the act fully funded. Although clearly the 2011 request doesn't do that, do you have a strategic plan, or is one being developed to ramp up the program over time?
Yeah, we are determined to make real the Adam Walsh Act. I think, as the President indicated, we're looking at about a 20% increase in funding for next year, and I think that year over year we will be looking at those kinds of increases, even in spite of the economic downturn that we have to deal with and the deficit reduction that we have to engage in.
And you're going to submit for the record
yes, I will.
What it would cost to fully implement that act, and if you would, your plan for ramping it up to fully funding and how many years that would take. Right. Let me note quickly certainly with approval, and I applaud your interest in the Department's budget request with regard to Indian Nations Leadership Council, your establishment of that, and I feel confident it will help the Department coordinate tribal leaders and be more responsive to their needs and campaign. I think we all understand the ambiguities and jurisdictional difficulties of law enforcement on Indian territory and the atrocious consequences that that results in. And this committee certainly is sensitive to that. Our bill last year reflected our interest in increasing resources for law enforcement in Indian territory, and even given these jurisdictional challenges. And I want to compliment you on your budget, because you have significantly increased funding for maybe one of the most paid attention to issues in the country with regard to law enforcement.